Welcome everybody. Welcome. Tonight is the 14th of March, and we're at Dallas Personal Robotics Group Robot Builders Night Virtual. We're going to just do the usual thing, go around the table and see what people have to discuss tonight. So questions. The order we have so far is Ray, Doug, myself, Carl, Mike, and then open mic night. So Ray. Ray is fiddling with audio, so you might need to work on the. Are you there, Ray?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Although it's echoing. You got an extra microphone when you're unmuted.
Okay. How about now?
Much cleaner.
Okay. Anyway, I wanted to show a video. Let's see here. Screen, start sharing. Okay. All right. Let's see. Gonna get out of this. And go to gallery. Okay. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear this, but let's give it a shot.
I like the looks of this.
Can you hear that?
No.
How about now?
Afraid not.
Okay, I can talk over it. Okay, I'm going to start it over. Okay.
If you rotate your phone horizontal, does it change to landscape mode? Yes.
Better? Okay. Anyway, I'm going to try this here. Use call. Okay, what happened? Oh. Too many things going on. Darn. Let me see what's going on here. Why did that stop?
There we go. I hear it.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
And this one has 4 ports on it. This is the Schrader valve that's used to fill it. This is the backside of a gauge that repression on. This is a tank empty, and this is basically just a.
Ooh. Darn it. Why does it keep doing that?
It might be a lot of bandwidth, Ray, so maybe if you mute the camera that's showing your face and just talk, then it might present the video from the phone better.
Yeah. Okay, gallery. video.
I think it's just referred to as an air tool. And right now it's just sitting on here. Anyway, so that's what the side view of the thing looks like. This is lined up so that this nozzle is like right in front of the can. The can gets dripped by the dripper, so it kind of opens it. And then I'm thinking about getting a solenoid valve for it because it's easier to control. Otherwise, I'd have to stick something on this to make sure this.
I guess the video stopped, huh?
There.
Yep.
And it's enough to blow the can, 6 cans at least 10 feet, and still have a little bit.
Yeah, a pain in the butt.
So there's, like I said, it's just.
So is this the robot you were talking about blasting the cans to the other side of the course, Ray?
Go build
It looks like the one he's going to blast them into your points bucket, Scott.
Looks that way.
Yeah.
I'm not certain why it's not playing on the.
right now. I've just got the tank sitting on the platform. So that this.
Mary, why don't you drop off the call? Because this is on a separate ray, so you got 2 rays going. Maybe
Yeah.
that might help your bandwidth.
Yep. Okay. I'll try that and come back in.
Or at least if you mute the camera on your facing you, that would help a lot.
Okay.
And then you can still talk through that lap, whatever it is.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
In it. Well, it seemed to be stuck now. All right, I'm gonna jump off. Come back.
How come I have captions on the screen? Is that turned on now? Or?
I think there may be a setting that you can control for yourself.
On for some reason. Okay.
Yeah, there it is. I didn't realize it's a per individual setting, but there it is. Yeah. Although it is amusing to see the machine try and guess what people say, especially in a technical discussion. There we go. And
Okay.
he's back.
All right.
Oh yeah, and I speak East Texican, so go figure that out in this transcription.
East Texican. All right, Ray. So it's
Can you see anything?
the video's looking good. How about if you make up the audio just to match the video? Because the video seems to be okay.
How's that?
No. So we see a tank, a pressure gauge,
It looks fun.
a blower, Schrader fill valve. We put the gauge upside down.
Yeah, I had to for a little bit.
Ah.
So Ray, what are the jaws for if you're going to blast the can across the course? I've noticed you had some jaws there, like to collect the can. What are those for?
Hold on.
Yeah, Scott, I think what he's going to do is he is planning to go get the can. It's just.
Yeah, I still have to get the can and point it towards the goal.
And then he's hoping to be able to blow it away.
I see.
God, this is shit tonight.
Oh, that's a little weird.
Can you hear anything? Any audio?
No audio at all.
Okay.
Are you going to shoot? Is it going to shoot the can? That's what we're all sitting here with bated breath wondering.
No can shooting tonight. Okay, I'm going to get off this and get back on the other.
Okay. All right. So at least we got to see how your concept.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
You can steampunk that pretty well if you tried.
Yeah.
How are you going to activate the valve to blow the air?
I think I heard him say that he was thinking of replacing the valve with a electromechanical valve. I thought I heard him say that, but I only caught little bits of the audio, so I'm not sure if I heard him say that or not. That would be the easy way to do it. I mean, obviously you could use a servo to punch the switch, but.
All right. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. What that was supposed to show was the air tank that I was going to use for 6-can and can soccer. It's like a 1 gallon tank, and I didn't want to. I forget what they're called. It's a 22 cartridge that you use. You stick one in this gun, and it's used to drive nails through concrete or into concrete. And it's just used as a 22 cartridge, but it's very loud. It sounds like a gunshot going off when you fire it. So I didn't think we needed any, random shooter scenarios at the makerspace. So it's just too loud.
Yeah.
And then there's also other chemical propellants. You can squirt in a little printed circuit board cleaner and hit a spark plug and bam, you'll get a flash of hot gases, but that's kind of dangerous too. I don't want the nozzle.
You don't want to set Scott's new course on fire. That would be
no. You don't want to damage that anyway.
Well, not like a little butane too.
Say that again.
You can do a little butane, for the lighters, the refill for the lighters.
Oh yeah, but that's having flame anywhere near sensitive electronics, a camera. Say the flame didn't go out, and I got this little flame right at the end of the nozzle, melting my
right above the LiPo battery,
or above the camera, which is where it would be, or the camera would be above it.
Can you pull a rubber band?
This was the.
Can you pull a rubber band to release it?
What?
Can you pull a rubber band back and then release it and let it hit the cannon?
You can. There's other mechanical ways to do it. Instead of I'm just using kind of a burst of air to blow the can, and with that tank, I can blow 6 or 7 at least 6 cans with a little reserve pressure, 10 feet. So I don't have to refill the tank, midway or halfway between or whatever. So I can fill the tank, set it on the ground, blow 6 cans into the goal, and have a little bit of reserve. And actually, I probably don't need as much pressure. But the next size tank was a half a gallon, and I thought that was going to be too small. The other thing that you can do is you can get air actuators or air cylinders, and those work very quick. So you can just basically, hit one of those with a, like through a solenoid valve with pressurized air, and that would basically push the cylinder to one end, and you can get them that move very quick. So instead of hitting it with a burst of air, it would be actually physically hitting the can.
Yeah.
And that might take less air, but
yeah, that might be enough to do the job too, if you have the right solenoid.
Yeah, the right solenoid and the right actuator, the cylinder.
Yeah.
So, basically you're just using the force of the air to push the rod out, push the can. And that's, I think that would actually take less air because you're not releasing enough of a burst to push the can all the way across the course. You're basically just letting out enough air to fill that cylinder, to bump the can or shove the can. So anyway, so I don't have the solenoid valve yet, and so I was just hitting I think it's referred to as an air tool or dust off or blow off tool or whatever. I was just hitting that and doing experiments, and it would actually throw it quite a bit more than 10 feet, so it's adequate.
Mm-hmm.
And
how about directional control?
It doesn't. You don't have to be perfectly aligned. I found it'll still pretty much shoot it straight forward. I don't know if the burst of air is so quick that it doesn't seem to spin or deflect the can off to one side or the other if the nozzle is off on one side of the can or the other. So it's still within reason. I mean, I think there's like maybe 2 inches that an inch on either side of the can where it doesn't really matter if it hits it there or in the center of the can. It goes straighter if it hits it in the center of the can, but it does curve a little bit if you're not directly in the center of the can.
Hey, Ray, are you familiar with like an outfit called CDC Products? It's over in Richardson off of, I think, Beltline, like east of 75.
CDC.
And they have a lot of pneumatic cylinders and pneumatic valves, and they're kind of like a surplus.
Yeah, they sell all kinds of CNC equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing, like pneumatic rams and electronic solenoids over there, pretty cheap.
What's the name of this, Scott?
It's called CDC Products.
CDC.
Like I said, it's on Beltline. Like if you go through the old Main Street there, and I guess they still call that Garland. Just east of Central.
Yeah, Doug, I think you've been there. I think that was the place that you recommended.
Okay. Yeah, CDC for surplus. I got you. Yeah. I hadn't really thought of them as a source for that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like the machinist version of Tanner.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they have a lot of aircraft stuff and, air riveters and different tools. And it's one of those places I like to go to every couple of months, see what they got in stock now.
I usually buy small pieces of aluminum there.
Yeah, they have all kinds of material, plastics, nylons, brass, whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, I went there several years ago, and they had I think they refer to it as a shell, and the shell holds multiple cutters. It's used for planing surfaces, flattening surfaces. And I happened to have the collet for it, but I didn't have the shell, and it was like $80. And thought, boy, I'd like to have one of those, and went back there several years later, and it was still there on the shelf. So kind of wonder if it's, the series, the Ozarks, where, the cartels funding small businesses that wouldn't really survive on their own. It's like, you haven't sold much of anything. It's still here.
Oh, no, I go there more than that, right? He sells a lot. But there's, some of this stuff's fairly exotic. And so, how many people are going to want that shell,
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you got to have the color for it.
I mean, it's, I've gone over there. I buy a lot of my small lathe tooling there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I used to do it for my mill, but now I pretty much get through the Amazon.
Mhm.
Well, and he's got a whole section of drill bits too, just about every size drill bit you can imagine, and it's one of the cheaper places I've found to buy drill bits as well.
Reamers, small reamers too.
And reamers,
yeah. Just sort of the unusual.
Yeah, I'm guessing some of them have like Morse taper ends, Morse taper 1 or 2, or
He's got the hardware section too, stainless steel stuff. Like you said, Doug, kind of odds and end bolts, shoulder bolts. Kind of just a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I actually found sometimes it's a good place to buy just some little things like if you need some metric screws.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get them a lot of places, but if you happen to be there, his metric screws tend to be very reasonably priced. So, it's things like that. Unfortunately, you might end up with, one that's stainless steel and super high quality where, you could have done with the hardware.
Yeah. Well, and the guys owned it. I think he took it over from his dad years ago, and it's locally run, family owned business. So I like to support those kind of good people.
Yep. Me too.
Yep. Anyway, I don't know how much you saw of that video. That was a disaster.
I wanted to see the puff. I wanted to see it go.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Maybe next time.
I think he's just dragging this out so he gets more stars.
That's what he's trying to do.
Yeah. Okay, you got a black one.
Oh, black star. Okay.
Yeah, you got a black star.
Okay. Didn't even realize that. That's good.
Yeah.
Generous tonight.
Yeah. Why?
Anyway, so that's that's going to be the new approach. We'll see how that works.
It's cool.
So Scott, it's my times are going to be really short. I don't know if you can compete anymore.
I tell you what, Ray, it looks like a solid second place to me.
Ooh, I don't know. You might be displaced. So
nothing like throwing the gauntlet down.
Yeah, I want to see what happens when one of them hits the corner and ricochets off and takes out his robot. That's what I want to see.
I mean, come on, Doug. You're kind of the rules guy. I mean, isn't there something in there about?
No, we tried to encourage that. He can't go over the bar. He can't go over the bar.
Well, like in the Robo Columbus, you can't damage the cores.
Yeah.
Why isn't that rule in 6CAN?
Well, I guess because our course we didn't have a quality course, Scott. That in the past you had one who cared.
Now that we've stepped up the course, we need to step up our game in the rules area too.
Scott, are you saying we need a rule against graffiti laying robots?
You can't leave that course forever. It's going to get scratched up, and
it needs a little character, right?
Parts are going to get lost, and
No, not the way Ray's got. I mean, the way Scott's got it. There ain't no parts.
No,
it all fits together, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, it comes apart in 6 pieces.
Yeah.
And that's it. So
the top parts though, it's just something to think about. I know you're finished, but if you're not finished all the way, if you can attach the 2 pieces that go across the top to the side somehow, you know what I mean? So
they actually fit inside the cavity. They're not attached, but they kind of
Okay, that's what I mean. I
bring
guess
it in
something.
there, and then you fold the thing over. I thought about some sort of clip or something to kind of hold them in there for, storage and transportation. But now that I've been challenged, I might have to put more effort into that.
Yeah. I just know that in the old one, the one we, the only two pieces we didn't lose were the twisty ties that you complained about. Everything else, we lost one or two, over time.
Well, Doug, a project's never finished. It's just eventually abandoned.
I should show. Well, you guys, am I next up, Scott?
Yeah. Doug, you are next.
Wait a minute. Just give me a second.
So we wait for Doug. So Harold and Doug D, do either of you have stuff to get in the queue with? No.
You can No, not really. I want to throw this out there. Next time you're trash talking, just remind second place that he's the first loser. I'm just saying how that works.
Now that, after Dave Anderson's previous thing, this is what my wife bought. And I've never had a battery operated leaf blower, but now I do.
That battery comes in handy.
Yeah, not that I'm going to use it, but I was just going to say. So if Ray does really good, and then somebody has to step up the bar, we'll get Dave to play. Well, we need to call Dave Anderson and see if we can get him back in with his. He's got a robot that does just that. It's got casing on it and everything.
All in the big guns.
Yeah. Let me see. Okay. Like I said, mine is not so much about robotics, but it's kind of tangentially robotics in the fact that it's about batteries. And I've done something that and not really even batteries, but battery chargers and battery cables. And I've got some piece of gear that I've been using to evaluate batteries and battery cables. And you can use it for doing batteries, because I've done that too. You remember I had those little AA lithium batteries? I used it for that. And I wanted to show you these in case you haven't seen them.
Oh yeah, they have a little USB connector on them, and you can charge them. And
I have two of these. One of them, okay, this is the fancy one. Okay, if you look up here, you can see there's two terminals, two green terminals. And then you also see there's a USB-C port here, the USB mini USB port there, and then a Type A port right here. Okay, so it can evaluate, this is a constant current, and it can, you can change the voltage up to, I want to say, 10 or 12 volts, something like that, maybe 15. And you can go up to 3 amps. There is a wattage, there's a wattage limit that you have to watch. So whatever, but.
So it's a DC to DC converter, basically, like a boost?
You plug it in. Let's see, I'm trying to figure out where you plug it in. Well, the A port's probably the power. Okay, and the only disadvantage to this one is a true constant current source, but the only disadvantage is that it has a set dropout voltage of 4 volts, and when it drops out, it okay. Excuse me. Now it's coming back to me. No, the AA isn't the input. That's the problem. Otherwise, it takes its power from the source. So it's good for like chargers, and it's good for batteries. but it only does have a 4-volt dropout. So like those AA batteries, those batteries that were 1.5, I had to gang them to 6 to be able to test their milliamp hours and their whatnot. And it's reasonably priced. I think it's about $20. But what it really showed me, and it also, by the way, has, that PD, new chargers have what they call power, whatever it is, just PD, okay? Power delivery, I'm sorry. And what they do there is to get higher wattage, instead of the USB port, it's always the USB-C, giving you only 5 volts. They communicate with your device. And if your device says, okay, I can take 9 volts, or I can take 12 volts, or I can take 15 volts, or I can take 20 volts. They have all these different standards. It'll actually do that. And so you communicate with your, like if your phone, these quick charge phones, that's what they're doing. Most of them jump up the voltage to 9 or 12 volts. And then that's why they can say 50 watts. Well, they literally are, putting 50 watts into that phone. So anyway, so this is a really versatile charger. There is a hack that you can do to get around the 4 volts, which basically is just putting a separate power supply on the microprocessor. But it's a pretty nice little gadget.
That's a 1-cell charger? Is that what it is?
Paul, I don't think he heard you.
I can't put my fingers on it, but there's another one that I have that only costs about $11. And it is, you do power it up. And it is, you have to put 2 resistors on it. And so it's very, it's not hard. They give you a couple of resistors, and it's real easy to set 4 or 5 different current levels that you can test on. That's how I tested those 1.5 volts individually. I put 15 volts and charged them at 100 milliamps, discharged them at 100 milliamps. And that works really well, and that's only about $12. And I don't know why I can't put my hand on it. But anyway, those were a couple of little fun toys that I played with, and some things that I can tell you knowing now. All things aren't created equal, dudes. Some of these cables that are being sold on Amazon are pure tea. And what's even worse is if you use a adapter, like a USB 3 down to a USB mini, those they essentially cut the performance of your charger or your cable in half. So anyway, kind of cool. Some little things that I've been playing with to evaluate different components.
What do you mean when cables cut it in half? You mean the IR drops in them?
What happens is the internal resistance of the power source supply will double. With these constant current supplies, you can easily calculate internal resistance of any battery.
Is it a charger, or is it a battery evaluator, or
it's a constant current source? It's a constant
current load. It's a constant current load.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and so you can set it like, if you want to discharge a battery at a certain rate, you can set it at that, and you can watch, you can get your milliamp hour. Now, a lot of our chargers do that. It's usually when you charge, at least on the little one that I've got over here that I normally use for lithium ions, I plug it in, I plug in the battery, and I watch how much it charges up. Okay. And I guess they probably do it on the discharge too, but this is extreme. This is much more accurate as long as you keep, well, no, I don't say it's more accurate. It's very accurate as long as you keep in the limits.
I built one of them like years and years ago.
Yeah.
And it's, as you say, a constant current load with a heat sink and little fan on it.
Mm-hmm.
And a meter that shows,
Yeah.
They're a useful thing.
Very useful. So, it's like when you get a new tool, all of a sudden you start finding a whole bunch of uses for it. But for batteries, for cables, for adapters, for chargers, it really makes it pretty trivial to be able to evaluate them.
Does the limit you said that when something reaches 4 volts?
Well, I'd say that's a limitation of this particular unit.
So when the battery goes down to 4 volts?
Yeah. Otherwise, the problem with this one is it's parasitic. Otherwise, the microprocessor is powered up by your voltage supply, and so when your voltage supply drops below the power of this, it dies. But like I say, there's a hack where you can simply, what they do is they just add a single cell LiPo on it, and so that microprocessor is always powered up. But then I'm not sure you can change that setting, that low setting. So all that may do is say, okay, you've reached 4 volts and I'm not going to disappear on you. Okay. So, so this is better for the higher level stuff, where you're 2S and above. But the other one with the little heatsink, with the little $12 one, which has just 2 resistors. That one, the limitation is, you have to have the right resistors, and they got to be high wattage resistors because you're putting a lot of power through it. I'm getting another one that there's a guy on the web who's evaluated several of different models of these. If I can find his link, I'll put it out. And so I tried the one that he claims to be the best, and so I'm going to find out. I got it from Alibaba. I'm going to see it's coming in, so see how that does. I've spent more time with these things than I really wanted to, but it's cool. I mean, it's just you get it's nice to be able to really know what you got, as opposed to kind of guessing. So, like I say, you find a lot of things aren't what you think they are. So anyway, that was a little tidbit, a little offline, but I thought it'd be kind of cool. You guys might enjoy it.
Well, you make me think about why not grab something like this, which is a really flexible little buck boost converter.
I've had a lot of luck with these, and they're really inexpensive. But you can use them in constant voltage or constant current mode.
So that might be a good one there. What do they say? How many watts? That's probably your biggest problem on that. 35 watts.
But
4 amps. 4 amps. Yeah, that's well.
As long as you stay within the ranges, right?
What I would suspect on that one, Carl, because of the ones that I've seen, all have fans on them.
Yeah.
And I would say if you see those 4 posts, you could probably put a fan, make a little modifier and put a fan right over the MOSFET.
Get a desktop fan.
Yeah. Just something to help dissipate.
Yeah.
There's a similar one that I bought that I would recommend if I could share. This one here.
Mm-hmm.
It's slightly cheaper.
Yeah, I bought one of them too, and it's great.
Mm-hmm. Well, put that link in there, John, while you're at it. So,
All right.
because that might be something worth looking at.
Yeah.
It's got a knob,
a proper knob, doesn't it?
This one has a knob too. Well, actually, it's not a knob; it's an encoder.
Yeah, there's a link there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's similar, but much smaller. And instead of knobs, it's got up and down buttons on the clickers. Select, I think. I want to say these are constant voltage or constant current. I haven't played around with them in a long time. Not as that powerful, but I think up to 30 volts for the input.
The one I linked in there is the knob works very well in fine tuning the output voltage.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, I think this one's in tenths of volts. But it shows you current and voltage on the display, a little LCD display.
A couple of weeks ago, I used it. This is what I was using to show, remember I showed you a curve of a Raspberry Pi supply that was available that had higher ratings, and I used this, and I also did it on the standard supply, and it's really, on the 3, not the 4, because a lot of people have 3s. Getting a good power supply is pretty tough because all the 3 power supplies are usually way below their ratings. Otherwise, when they say that you can get, it can go out to 2.5 amps, what they're really saying is that it'll cross 4.7 or 4.65 at 2.5 amps. And what's useful for evaluating that is this guy. This is another little, I'm sure you all, I don't think any of you could have resisted this little doodad. I bet that everybody's got one of these. It just shows you your voltage and your current on a it'll give watts and something else, I think, on a USB-A port. And so what I do is, this is my 3B, and I stick it in here. I'm just looking at it. And all I'm really looking at is the USB bus voltage. And on the 3, when you see that bus voltage not being 5 volts, and if it's like 4.9, you're already on the curve downhill. And as soon as you plug an accessory into this guy, you're going to be getting low voltage alarms all over the place. So I literally checked one of the worst power supplies you can buy is one that's made by Rhino. So if you have a Rhino USB port, a USB for a 3, or a Raspberry 3, then I would almost guarantee you should chunk it. I have one supply which I have no idea where I got it. Works really nice. So I have one good USB 3 supply. But this is a good way to, to tell you if your USB 3 supply has got anything. You take this and you can put a stress test on the machine if you want to, but or you can just start plugging in USB accessories. And when the bus drops, like I say, when it starts to fall below 5 volts, you're going to have the low voltage alarms. So, according to their spec, whenever you drop 4.65 or 4.7, depending on what you read, that's when you get the low voltage supply. But what happens is if you hit it with a load and it just goes chink like that, you get the low voltage alarm. And I actually was starting up the 3 on some of those power supplies immediately gave you low voltage alarms. So anyway, just a couple of things that I've been playing with to kind of see how power is working on my stuff.
Power to the people.
Hmm?
I said power to the people.
Power to the people, yeah. But like I say, this little, for Raspberry Pis, this little module here, and it's just sticking it in a USB port is pretty cheap way to test it.
Darn handy.
Yeah. So.
I think for me, it's been a good way to check and see whether, it's like some of the ESP32s, they're kind of vague on whether you can, input 5 volts and also have it connected to USB-C or something. So you can just stick that on and see how much current's coming out of your, USB-C plug, and haven't had any issues where it's, where there's a conflict or something where it's pulling more current out of it. So I don't know if they have just like a simple diode protection, diode drop in the, like a Schottky diode or something, or power management chip handles it, or they're kind of vague on what's on some of the ESP32 boards.
Yeah, as often as you run into that low voltage warning on Raspberry Pi, it sounds to me like a design deficiency that they need to fix. Maybe when they release the Pi 5, things will be different.
Yeah, well, on a 4, I haven't had a problem. I mean, even with the standard 4 supply, I can't say I haven't ever had one, but when I've had one, it's because I've had lots of crazy high wattage peripherals plugged in, but like on my robot that I used at Robo Columbus last year, which had what's the name of that? Had an Oak D light plugged into it, and at various times had monitors and keyboard readers and stuff, and I never got low voltage on that. So, yeah, I don't know. The 4 seems to be a lot better, John, on that problem. But a lot of people can't get a 4, so they have a 3 from somewhere, and I'm just saying that's the only reason why. To be quite honest, I got 3 4s. I'm never going to screw with a 3 again. I mean, they're waiting for some project that that I'm going to leave there and put in epoxy and forget about. So, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe Eagle Cam or something, watching Eagle's birds.
Yeah. Oh, we had a hawk come in and destroy, I think it was a mockingbird. Boy, I mean, they're big when you see them really close. Up in the sky, they don't look that big, but when they're sitting there on a tree limb tearing something apart, they look pretty big, So, anyway.
Okay.
Good, Doug?
I'm good.
All right.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Cool.
Next in queue, then we have Mike. Then we have open mic. So I actually have something robot-y tonight, and then something not robot-y. So the robot-y thing. Oops, go to the right screen. So I'm not doing my own robot much right now because I have too many things going on. But I'm coaching together with a cousin, an 11-year-old cousin.
So this is a kid that needs some challenges. So basically, the two of us are going to help him scratch build the robot. I don't think he's going to have it ready for the May competition, but he's got a really nice reality printer, and he's started designing Tinkercad. I've talked him away from the cannon wheels that they're using on his first team into using a differential drive like we have. So he's started off on this modeling parts. So and then we're getting 3 kits of parts. So that I can have one, his aunt can have one, and he can have one. So this just came in this week. Got 3 of these guys. It's the same one I've used before on a mechanical robot. I just really like the way they do things. They have a nice library to base things on. But it's Arduino Mega with a driver board, and they sell it with cables and a PS2 controller. And it's got decent documentation, and it's pretty nicely done from what I've seen. So now there's 3 more of these. We'll check them out hopefully this weekend. And already one of the controllers is bad, but see if the rest of it, if anything else needs to get replaced. And then they have these decent motors. So we got a handful of motors, encoders, and even these nice little mounting plates, brackets. Yeah, who can argue with that? And they're cut out in a way that you can mount the wheel high or low, whichever you like. Because it's offset, right? So the shaft is offset. So that's my robot update. If anyone's interested, I can put those links in.
Yeah, put this link in for sure. Yeah. What is the PS2? Is that something proprietary, or is that going to be I2C?
It's the same. I mean, it's just a dongle that. This is the same adapter that's inside the regular PS2 game. So it uses whatever that PS2 interface is. I think it might be based on SPI. I don't remember for sure.
Oh, okay.
But there's a library that they include to use it with, and then if you decide to go this way, I found some issues with that library, so I have a version of the library that I think behaves a lot better.
Okay, cool.
But I've used it with, you can get these controllers for like $6 or $7, and you can get the dongle for another $3 or $4.
I think I have one of those, and that's why. But I've never used it. I know Scott used it one similar to that, I believe, on his robot to steer it around. Was that what you were using, Scott? Or was it one of these PS2?
No, it was yeah, actually I think it was an Xbox terminal that was Bluetooth into the Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
I had trouble with the range on it. The Bluetooth would drop in and out.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't, I didn't really look into it, but it wasn't real stable when I was using it.
Okay.
I've been really pleased with this. The only issue is that I find every now and then, like the binding from controller to dongle will go crazy, and so I just turn off that controller and I grab a spare one, and it fires right up.
Mm.
But what I like about it is it's got, with only a handful of buttons, there's code to detect being held, transitions pressed or transitions released. So you can get quite a rich set of controls just from a handful of buttons.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The joysticks are kind of crap, but I mean they're nothing like an RC plane. But but anyhow, I mean what's nice is that it comes. I mean all the cabling and everything's there, right? You just need a battery and pretty much and run with it.
Yeah, this is his first. He's on a first team.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this will not be his first robot. Basically, the first season is over, and he needs a challenger. He's going to drive his mom even more crazy. So,
He's a really sharp kid, so I just want to give him something to stretch towards.
I think this getting him started on Omega is probably a really smart move.
Yeah. I mean, they use Java in the first, so it just won't be too bad to pick up on the Arduino flavor of C. And plus, I mean, we can get them the working code to start with. So there's plenty of libraries now, and I can lean on my cousin, so I don't have to do all the coaching myself.
Cool.
So does it include the robot base with the motor mounts and all that jazz?
Well, they will sell. They have single deck and double deck versions like this. They have some out of aluminum, like I bought, or metal, some out of plastic. I would not advise the plastic. I tried one at first, and that was a bad idea, but the metal is really nice. And they also have an Uno version of the same driver board, so it's a lot lower resources, but a lot lower price too. So you can get this whole store. I got to tell you, I mean, this Mobius store. They do a really good job. They got good communications, they got good support, good documentation, and they have a lot of different parts. So I've been pretty pleased with them overall.
Hey, Carl, is this the one where you got your Mechanum?
Yeah, this one right here. This one, $96 for motors, metal base cables, brackets. Wheels.
Do they have? Can you put their store link too? That would be good. And when you went down, can you go down to the 4-wheel robot that you showed that wasn't Mechanum?
That was not Mechanum.
Yeah, thought you had one on that previous page.
That's Mechanum.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah. They seem to focus on Mechanum. They might have some like balancing bots, but mostly they seem to do Mechanum.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have balancing things. They do have some cars. I mean, it's not the image, but anyhow, that's the one robot-y thing I have. So,
and you found like what was shipping times like?
Oh, it was. I mean, it's just been phenomenal. Like I placed the order. I placed the order for this one on February 22, and the first box came in almost a week ago, and this last box came in 2 days ago. I haven't seen anything damaged in shipment. It looks like.
So it took about maybe 3 weeks.
Yeah, 2-3 weeks. And they do an efficient job of packing. They packed in here the controllers and dongles, and then motors.
Yeah, you had an outside, cardboard box, so that's really good packaging from China,
Well, I mean, what's there to say? Nothing's broken, and I haven't had a shipping issue with them at all. So.
Well, it beats Banggood where they just throw it in a bag with, little to no padding, and
I was just curious because I've never bought anything through AliExpress and was wondering what your experience was like.
Yeah, no, it's positive. And I can't remember if it was Ollie or Banggood, but I remember the first time, it was right after I joined DPRG. I ordered some audio adapters or something, and I ordered them, and I kid you not, from China, from placing the order to arriving at my doorstep, it was about 30 hours. And it was $1.57 for the part and shipping.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I've had pretty good luck with AliExpress. At first you're a little leery. It's like, okay, might be giving you my personal information.
Well, it's
not $5 part ends up costing $500 or something, but nothing's ever happened. So
yeah. I mean, hopefully it's not
good for Chinese stores only.
What's that?
use a special credit card you only use in China stores, and so therefore you know if it starts getting frauded.
Oh yeah.
They're a marketplace, so I'm sure they have bad vendors just like Amazon. But
Yeah, that's what I found with AliExpress. You can get there's some real bargains, but the problem is if you get a bad one, and I have had a bad one. I have had AliExpress step in. Otherwise the return was refused. Okay, and then I complained again, and AliExpress stepped in and paid me back.
That's pretty.
So so far I can't say I really had super bad experiences. And their marketplace, they have so many things that are not available anywhere else. I used to use Banggood a lot, but they don't seem to have as much as they used to have.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Doug. It's Banggood.
I use AliExpress.
Yeah,
and I find that they're about lately 50%. So 50%. Half the stuff I've ordered has never made it.
Ooh.
The last one, including shipping tracking number and everything, and it got shipped, and I followed it all the way into Quebec, and it got marked as delivered in Quebec and didn't move any farther. I asked them to look into it. They never looked at they never responded to the email. They didn't even read it because there's no read receipt on their site. And they refunded the money. No issues, no questions. And I've had several of them refunded, but you have to wait. It's whatever it is, the 45 days or something.
Yeah.
But they've been really good as far as backing up the buyers.
Okay, who's beeping?
That's me beeping.
Oh, okay.
I'm
beeps are good.
Beeps are, well, I ran a test on my motor driver and my wheels are moving properly. So it's just my code that's wrong.
You'll get it there.
I will.
Okay.
I just got power on it yesterday for the wheels, so
cool.
It'll get there.
Next Tuesday.
I did test the hoverboard motors. They have 15 poles, so 15 positions per rotation. So,
have you been able to tap into it then?
Well, you get the 3 Hall effect sensor outputs, and you can do a logic combination of those to get I think 6 pulses or 6 electrical cycles per each pole. So where you're going through the A, B, and C, energizing the A, B, and C coils, and sensing that with the A, B, and C Hall effects, and so
you're still getting 6 pulses per revolution. Is that what you were saying?
Well, per electrical revolution, not mechanical revolution, because there are 15 poles around the outside of the perimeter of the motor. So I go through.
If you rotate the wheel, if you rotate the wheel one time, how many pulses you get?
15.
15. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
That should be fun. Well, that's right. If you think about it, if you're going slow, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But you're not going to go slow, right, Ray?
Don't know.
He's going to turn his canister around backwards and go really fast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Jet engine propulsion there.
There you go. Okay, I have one more thing before, and then Mike. One last thing for me is that I've sent some invites out. I think I got everybody who expressed an interest locally. So if not, raise your hand in here. I'll send it to you. But I'm going to have open garage for a couple hours on Saturday. So if you want to see this car before it gets torn apart, it's in a kind of barn find, garage find level right now. So, or if you have some great advice, I could use some advice too. But just raise your hand in the chat, and I'll get an invite to you somehow. That was it. That's it for me. So I think Mike, you're next in queue, and then open mic.
Okay, well, I really don't have anything to show and tell, but I ordered a voltage current sensor, and it hasn't made it to me yet. It got lost or something. But I do have a question about I2C and Arduino. Already have a servo controller and a PCA 9685, and I'm using a library. And when I instance the library, it actually, I guess, initializes the wire, the I2C port, and so it uses it. What do I have to do to get another library to use the same I2C port? I've never tried it, and I'm going to do it, but I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm hoping it just works, but I don't know.
Oh, okay, I think I know what he's saying. So you're saying you have you've got one device came with a library, so you've got one address for that particular device, and it works okay. But now you want to add a second I2C item to it.
Yeah, so I'll change the address, but how does the library? I mean, if one library creates or controls the wire, the I2C. Can another one create a new instance of I2C and use it also?
No, I don't think. Mike. Usually, how they do that is you've got you're using the wire library. Okay.
Right.
You're using the wire library, and what the other library is doing is saying, okay, if you use this address, then you have these commands available to you, and we'll send that. You can send them out, but usually the library won't kick in unless you call for that address. Am I making sense there? So you can have two. What I'm trying to say is, usually you can have any multiple devices, and what causes the functions of the library to work is that you've addressed that device's IC squared address.
Right.
Okay.
The first device I have has a library or something I installed, and I initialized the class function, and initialized its wire interface. So I can create a new wire interface, and they'll just work together. They'll share the same I2C.
Can you pull up the code?
What I'd say is, in general, you only use one instance, and you use separate addresses. You say, go ask this one, and then you tell it, go ask that one, and then you tell it, go ask that one. You only use one instance.
Right.
Multiple instances that get confused.
Well, you might have to make, if it's a C++ library, you might have to have instances of the device, Dave. But you're right, you only have to have one instance of wire.
Right.
You would only have one instance of your I2C, whatever level it is, whether it's a C++ class or whatever. You're only talking about one I2C device, right? One bus. So, like Doug was bringing up, in the very first byte of any I2C transaction is an address, and whether it's a read or write. So you can have multiple devices with different addresses on the same instance of I2C.
Right.
And in software, if you create a new instance, then that's, again, depending on what level it's at, you're not going to be talking to the same hardware, right? Because you have to do the software to hardware abstraction or even reference. And as long as you're talking to the same I2C hardware, then you only should have one reference.
Looks like Jim's got a statement. Carl, you might want to add.
So Jim, feel free to jump in any times, but we see a question here. Do you need a shielded cable, or what is shielded cable for I2C help?
Okay.
Well, I2C is inherently designed for short distances. It's inter-IC communication is what I2C stands for. So it was never intended to transmit over long distances. There's other transmission means for that, 485, CAN, and different protocols. I2C is not one of them. But that happens a lot in robot world where you may want to put your I2C IMU on top of a pole, to get it away from the magnetic interference from your CPU and that sort of thing. And so we kind of stretch what I2C was built for, really, in those kind of situations.
There's chip to chip within a board, right? So when you say long, like when we stretch it by having a cable, what would you think is a good length maximum for a cable, and then would you think the shielding helps?
Well, anytime you put it on a wire, you're risking interference, right? It doesn't really matter if the wire's 6 inches or 2 feet. Now, certainly, the longer it is, the worse the inductance effect is and the disturbances that you can pick up. Because the other thing about I2C is it's not a totem pole drive, so it doesn't drive both high and low, right? It only pulls the line, it only sinks the line, and then they're relying on resistance to provide the high part of the signal. So the transitions on I2C aren't crisp, right? Because you're not driving current through it. You're basically allowing the resistor to pull the signal up. So any parasitic capacitance or inductance is going to affect that switching time.
Right.
I think we got off of your original point there, Mike, but in software, you're still only going to want to talk to one piece of hardware, but on that piece of hardware, you may talk to multiple devices.
Oh yeah, I'm real familiar with how I2C works. I'm just curious. I guess I'm going to have to look into the library I'm using and see how it's initializing the wire interface and make sure I use the same instance of that wire on my other library somehow.
Yeah, you can reference it. You can create another object and then reference the original device. Certainly, you could have multiple pointers pointing to it, but you have to coordinate the transmissions, right? So that you don't have two processes trying to transmit something on the bus at the same time.
Right. Okay, so because I was just wondering if I could just take two separate libraries or two separate modules that have I2C and just instance them both and expect it to work. It looks like
as long as you can synchronize the two, right? They can't run independently. You would have to synchronize so that only one process you're only really talking to one device at a time.
Right. But each of them are going to instance their own, initialize their own wire interface, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with the wire interface for I2C, so I don't know how it's structured or how you would manipulate it. I'm just not familiar with it.
Yeah, for people that don't know, wire is the library for Arduino for I2C, well, actually for serial communication. So it does have I2C routines in it.
It also has regular GPIO. It has SPI. It's basically the HAL layer, the hardware abstraction layer that you can use like on a Raspberry Pi to talk to its peripherals. It works well. I've used it for GPIO quite a bit, and it's really easy to use. And I've just never had to do it because a lot of times, especially with the Pi, you'll have, a driver for that device. So you won't really be going through a hardware library, because the drivers that I've played with, basically have their own access. And most of what I do is UART, which is a lot easier to access from a software perspective than, like I2C or SPI, where you're having to kind of create a transaction of well, I've got to do this and I've got to enable that. And I was just working on the SPI driver on my new robot, trying to talk to a SPI RAM chip. And I was using the STM HAL libraries, which I haven't used before. You really kind of had to work through all of the transactions. Okay, you have to enable it to write, and then you write it, and then you unprotect it. And so there's a lot of sequence, state machine kind of, you got to hold your tongue right and stand on one foot to get it to work right.
Yeah, to add some additional complexity to things, on I2C, you can use a multiplexer, and that will allow you to isolate somewhat which bus you're talking to, and mitigate somewhat the effective loading of multiple things.
Yeah. We talked about back, Jim, going back to your question. Okay. Many months ago, and I can't tell you exactly when, but probably right before, probably in October of last year, that I went through I2C wiring, because I was learning a lot about it. And for long runs, there's two things you can do. You can use the standard internet cable, network cable, and that's, I believe that's, if I remember right, that's four twisted pairs. And what you do, there is an app note, and I can't recall which one it is, but essentially you use one twisted pair for the sending and the receiving, and then you use the other two, one for the high voltage and one for ground, and you share the twisted pairs with the receive with one, maybe it's, and the other one goes, the ground one goes with the send, I believe. It's straight out of an app note on I2C. I'll look and see if I can find it and put that in a link. But the other thing that I found, so that's one thing that can help, is using standard network cable. What do they call it? I6?
Cat5, Cat6.
Cat6, yeah. Cat5 or Cat6, either one, it doesn't matter. The other thing you can do, and I think this is what Scott was alluding to, is there's little boards that essentially clean up the signal and make them much sharper. And you can get those from Adafruit very cheaply, and those work fantastic. They really, really help.
Active drivers.
Yeah.
Active transceivers.
Yeah. I'll go look at my my robot and see if I can find the number on the chip. So, yeah. But those two things, and those just get attached to the end of the whatever you're stringing together. And with the Cat5 or Cat6, whatever it was, I was able to make it very, very reliable. And adding that active driver chip to the end, that just sharpened up the pulse widths quite a bit. So the wiring, and I strung it, probably 20 inches.
Those driver boards you're talking about, they take it from an open collector to a totem pole drive. That's
I would be surprised. Yeah.
Clean up the signal quite a bit, and you can use they have a lot of different level voltage translators. Is a good way to do that, even though you're not really translating the voltage. Typically, they would be used for to interface 3.3 to 1.8 volts. But I've used them to basically, like you're saying, clean up the I2C signals, and that's probably what you're talking about, Doug.
Yeah, well, it's an Adafruit product. It costs about $2, $2 or $3. It's really cheap. Just stick it on the end, and but the long run. Okay, this is the other thing. You use twisted pair wherever you can.
Not for I2C. Unless you're totem pole driving it or differential, it's not been my experience. A good experience with actually flat cable. Is much more preferable, like a ribbon cable. Is preferable to a twisted pair for I2C.
Well, like I say, there is a what do they call them? Application note for I2C wiring that one of the big people put out. It's probably the bus maker, and they showed how to do this.
Oh, did they?
Use an I2, yeah, and it's not. I didn't come up with it. But you're right. Flat cable is another way that's very useful. But I'm just saying is you can't just make a rat's nest of DuPont cables and expect a long one to work.
Yeah, I worked on a project a number of years ago, because typically in the elevator industry, the cable, the trail cable is called, that goes to the elevator, has been traditionally a round cable with the individual wires being wrapped around the core. And then as the industry progressed into more CAN and serial communications, that configuration was found to be horrible for that. And so we were experimenting with like a flat ribbon cable instead of a round cable. And we found that the noise transmissions were significantly smaller. I mean, it's like a factor of 4 improvement as far as the electrical transmission and the disturbances that were influenced into that cable. And I think that's kind of the same thing with I2C, because we're just talking about signal wires in that case, but I2C is very much the same scenario.
Scott, doesn't it depend on the nature of the electrical interface, though, and like the design of the flat? Because what I've seen in the past is that sometimes they'll have the flat where it's like a ground or power, so it's ground signal. So you've got a good, in effect, shielding. It's not a surrounding shielding, but it's in effect a good return path for any things coupled in.
Right.
But that's a lot different than having a ground and then signal, power. I mean, it's very different.
Well, I mean, you see a lot of PCB boards laid out that way too, where they'll take like the address lines or the data lines and they'll separate them. Or even I've read some data sheets where when you write out to a bus, it doesn't actually write each bit at the same instance. It actually sequences through them, so that the crosstalk and the switching noise is dissipated across that period of time. Now, I mean, you're talking, fractions,
picoseconds,
nanosecond kind of delays. But, when you're talking about noise, some of the oddest things can generate it. I'm working on a design right now that's failing the radiated emissions, and we can't figure out why. Everything we take this out, it still fails. We take this out, it still fails. So I'm not an RF guy by any means, but it can be, once you get into frequencies, it can be really some strange turf for sure.
It's crazy these days when you got processors at gigahertz, right? Same processors are at the same frequency our cell phones use. So you got the lines toggling, and I've understood that that's where it'll actually dither the clock so that all the energy is not in that exact frequency. It's actually spread, it's distributed a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, crazy stuff.
Yeah, well, I don't think I have that particular problem because I just, like, my first board's a couple inches of wire, then the second board's a couple more inches.
Yeah, you should really be fine. I mean, you know, my other recommendation is make sure you have a good strong pull up right next to the device, right? Because like I said, I2C is open collector, so the better, the crisper edge you can put on it by having, you know, the pull up resistor right by the device, you know, after the transmission line will help. You can go down to actually a couple of K too if you have to. I mean, typically it's about 4.7K or 3.3K. You know, you can run it down to about 2K if you have to. It just depends on what you see on your scope. If you have some skew, you know, on your rising edge, you know, sometimes you can clean it up. A lot of times that'll be indicative of your cabling. You know, overshoot and undershoot is going to be mostly from your cabling. So it just kind of depends on what you see on your scope and what you need to, you know, what you think you should, what area to address. But are you having trouble communicating with them, or?
Oh, no, I haven't got it yet. I was just wondering about the software libraries and their interaction Arduino wire. Yeah.
And here we're all just with
hardware. I'm just going to put the libraries in and see if it works. If not, I'll start debugging. Yeah.
When is the rabbit hole? We'll be there for hours.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Mike. That was a good prompt, and Jim too. Good question. Love it. Robot related implementation is great.
So are you going to be ready in May there, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
He's coming for second place, right?
I think he's coming for you.
Second from last? Okay.
The second loser.
Well, that was my approach for golf. I thought the high score won.
Yeah, can I grab the screen for a sec?
Yeah, I think Mike. Okay, so I think that was it for our cue. So it's open mic time now.
Okay. This let's see, screen. All that. Share. Okay, come on.
Echo.
Okay, can you see this?
Yep. Code.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, so this is actually kind of made my own GPS handheld system. It used a GPS module from Adafruit, QT from Adafruit, and just an OLED that I wired up. It wasn't didn't have a quick connector on it, but it did, it did have the SDA, clock the data, basically power and ground. So it was 4 pins, similar to what's in the quick connector. And these are all, there's only one bus, one I2C bus. So where is it? In setup, there is just one wire begin. But you have to basically connect at the screen address of the OLED, and that's what that code does. And then you also have to do a GPS dot begin at its address, and then use whatever library commands were provided from whatever library you hooked to, or used or utilized. So I guess that's one example of, one wire interface. You're not doing wire begin at an address. You're using separate addresses and code basically to hook to that interface. So I don't know if that's what you were talking about or had a question about later or earlier, rather. Mike?
I was just wondering, do you instance a wire interface or you just begin it? Yeah, and that basically, I'll have to just dig into the libraries and see what they do and just they interact with each other.
Yep. Yeah, you can do wire begin and then, as one of the parameters here, an address of something on that bus. But I think if you do it that way.
Can you have like 2 wire begins somewhere in the code?
No, there's just one right here, and that's in setup.
Yeah.
So it's only done once.
Because it's done somewhere in a class library. Probably when I initialize it in my setup.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what, like display begin is something that Adafruit has set up because, you've got the, its address, the screen address for the OLED is 3C, and the, let's see, OLED screen width doesn't say anything about what the address, the address for the GPS was 10. Yeah, hex. So those are utilizing the wire interface, and that's the, the I2C address that those things are on. And they're separate. The display is 3C and this one is 10. But yeah, you don't see another wire begin anywhere else. That's the only one. So, and that's utilizing, 2 different Adafruit libraries, one for an OLED and the other for a GPS unit. So I don't know if that was your question. It sounded like you were wondering, how do you get more than one I2C device initialized on the bus? Was that it, or?
Let me share then.
Okay, I'll get out of this then. Oh, you're looking for it?
Yeah. So what I'm looking at here, I think, I haven't really dug into it. So I think when I do this, set up a single device, and it's going to default to set up the wire to a wire, and looks like it has a reference, so it's going to return the wire interface set up. So I guess I could use that reference wire for the next library, so I don't have to have 2 wires.
Okay.
With the setting the device address right here as part of the configuration parameters, this particular interface looks like it would only talk to a single device.
Right.
Like I'm saying is.
Well, this is the single device. This is setting up a 12-channel servo controller, and this is just setting up a single device. Now, if you had 4 servo controllers, you can just use the same library and say, oh, here's the 4 addresses. Yeah, but I'm going to have a totally separate library for a different device. So I was just hoping to get them to work together.
Again, they would have to coordinate each other. Which
you have to do a temporal coordination.
Yeah, I mean, the library may do that inherently for you. I haven't used it, so I couldn't say.
Oh, I know that this library doesn't do it because I had 2 different processes using it, and I had to put a semaphore on it to make sure only one was working at one time. So.
Yeah. Well, is there like a I2C device, that, I mean, I think that seems like it would be more of what you're trying to do, where you're using the same I2C bus to talk to multiple addresses.
I think
Right,
that's
right. And so I just got to make sure that no piece of code tries to communicate at the same time if I'm doing multi-threading.
But isn't that where the wire declaration comes from? So we're like, is there initialization for the wire? Because you're passing wire into the setup single device.
Where's wire defined?
Yeah. So it seems to me that if there's going to be arbitration, and if the wiring library does it, that would be the piece that does it. Pass by reference is wire. So
right. I don't think the wire library would understand multi-threading. I would have to create a semaphore just for coordinating the I2C bus. Because I do that also. There's the I2C bus in the BLE sense, the Arduino BLE sense, for all of its different sensors that use the same I2C. So I had to make sure that no two of those are communicating at the same time and overriding each other.
Are you saying that you're not instantiating a wire object anywhere?
No.
Because I think what you're doing here is, I think C++ is instantiating a temporary object unnamed of class wire, capital WIRE, and passing a reference to that down to the setup single device method. And then but as soon as that returns, that device, or that object is no longer accessible because it's unnamed.
Oh, well, I don't know what's accessible or not, but yeah. So,
I think what you have to do is you have to instantiate an object of type wire. So you have to, like up in your beginning, declare capital wire space lowercase wire open close parens, and then you have a persistent object called lowercase wire, or call it whatever you want, but then you have a named instance of the object that you can pass a reference to, and the instance will persist, so that when you subsequently call the PCA 9685 object, it has a reference to something that is persisting. Does that make sense?
yeah, but right now this particular library works. So I was going to add a second one to it. So somehow I could use this wire reference to coordinate the two libraries.
Yeah, but I don't think you're doing correct C++. I think you'll run into trouble somewhere because that object was instantiated on the stack, and then when you return from that function, the stack will get reused, and the PCA 9685 will hold a reference to an invalid object.
It works, so I'm not sure how, but yeah.
Well, it works.
This is like the example codes show to do it this way. So I've just been doing it, and not worrying about it. But now I'm starting to go, oh, now how do I get how do I share this wire?
Yeah, I think what Paul's driving at is that wire here is a reference that's not retained, right? So if you want to set up another object in this PCA 9685 object here, you need a reference to wire to the same wire that this particular call is setting up, right? And that's what Paul's saying, is this isn't persistent because you haven't defined wire anywhere. This is basically, like you were saying, it's put on the stack and then basically taken away as soon as this object is done, right? So yeah, that's. And then if you share that wire one out to another subsequent call of set up single device with a different address, then you're going to be using the same instance of wire here instead of creating a new one. But you still have the arbitration issue of how do you coordinate these two? And you were talking about you were already using a semaphore to coordinate these two objects. So that would be the tricky part of doing it like that way.
Yeah, so right now I have this servo driver, and I'm going to have a voltage and current reader, monitoring circuit. And they'll be in the same I2C bus with totally different libraries, or so basically you have to do that and then share that instance wire to both of them.
Is there some reason why you don't want to use a second I2C bus? Would that not solve a lot of problems?
I'd like to use just one, reduce the wiring, because you're supposed to be able to daisy chain them. So, yeah.
Just
you need open closed parens after wire 1 because you're instantiating an object there. We're calling it constructor.
Oh. Okay, well, I'll figure that out. Yeah. All right.
They hide a lot of stuff, a lot of C++, and do a good job of hiding it in Arduino. When you try and do some things, you can get tripped up.
I've spent the last several weeks digging through the ST HAL code and trying to figure out how to leverage it and make it work, because the documentation and the examples out there aren't so great, and so it's been a struggle. I mean, I've and it's one of those projects where nothing goes easy. It's a battle every time you turn around.
So I've got a couple of things I can show in one question for the assembled Illuminati if we're finished with that last topic.
I think so. Well, we see Jim raised his hand, Jim F. from Calgary. So,
oh, how many servos does Mike want to drive?
Oh, there you go.
Mike is possible.
Right now, I'm using 8 servos right now, but so I don't need another servo board. I just need to add another current and voltage measuring board to the same I2C bus.
Cool.
I still recommend using a second port. Solves too many problems too easily.
Few extra wires. It's hard to beat dedicated wires, isn't it? Forget this stupid Wi-Fi stuff.
Who did you get the sensor from? Was it Adafruit or?
Mike,
you're muted, Mike.
Yeah, an Adafruit one with a QICC connector.
Yeah,
and
she usually has very good examples about how to.
Oh yeah, there's lots of examples. But I'm just talking about having 2 separate libraries, and like everybody has. Hey, here's an example. It works. And you can do it on each one, but combining them together is where I was questioning myself.
Okay.
Anticipating a problem.
Examples always are limited.
Oh yeah.
Examples are only enough to get you into trouble.
So I'll probably try the board with an example without using both of them, just to make sure that my board I bought works, and then I'll combine them.
And always get a spare.
Yeah, right.
So Paul, I think you had something. What's next?
So, actually, segueing off of Scott's comment, always get a spare. I've shared with you guys the flow limiter that I've been working on for the first quarter, and I didn't have a spare, so I went to New Zealand for 3 weeks. Just got back last week, and I installed it while I was down there. But I ordered a spare, and since it was only like $2 extra and I think I've showed you guys the ESP32 little M5 stick module that I built it around. So I ordered a spare, and since it was only $2 extra, I ordered it with the wristwatch accessories. So here you have the possibly the world's geekiest and perhaps ugliest wristwatch. Running the flow limiter software.
Is that a new contest you need rules for, the Chick Magnet contest?
Yeah, well, it certainly, I feel it belongs with this crowd.
Somehow.
And then, so just to, let's see, share a couple of things. Let's see, there we go. There we go. And so this is the flow limiter water subsystem installed down on my brother-in-law's shed in New Zealand with the flow sensor in line with the electric valve, and then the ESP32 thing that I just showed is inside the shed, and it's Wi-Fi connected and sends data up to the cloud. And here's some recent data showing the daily usage on his farm, and it tops out at about some days he uses 100 liters, and some days he uses not much. But anyway, I thought this project is now finished, but I thought I'd just share.
So is that a rainwater collection system? I forgot.
The water source is from a rainwater collection system, and the filter is the inline filter is to filter out leaves and other debris that may jam the flow sensor because it's just a spinning impeller on its way through the sensor and out to the farm.
So the days of high usage, was that the days he took a shower?
No. He's down there. He moved the cattle out off of his farm to a neighboring farmer's paddock, so it doesn't include the cattle. I think when the cattle are there, they'll be drinking like 1,000 liters or maybe more of water. So it's probably just my sister watering the garden.
I know in Texas they say to allocate like 40 gallons per cow per day.
Yeah, you said that when last time we talked about this, and so that told me right away the cows aren't drinking from it.
Mm. Of course, I don't know. It's maybe cooler in New Zealand. I don't know.
I don't know.
In Texas, they're roasting. I need water.
The word finished project. Is there a special star for a finished project? That sounds like an oxymoron. A finished project? No, not here.
Okay, well, there's always tech support, and there's always, I need a firmware upgrade to do this or that little thing, but it's finished, installed, and working.
And I left the country.
Get outside the country, but I can see what it's doing from back here. It's pretty cool.
You still have to pay a $75 exit tax to get out of the country.
I missed that, right?
Oh, did you still have to pay? I think it was $75 so they'll let you out of the country if you're a visitor.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Oh, okay.
You got to leave to pay the U.S. You got to leave to come back in. It's just like every time you go, it's like, yeah. So the question I have for the assembled Illuminati is my next project. And again, I'm sorry, it's not robots, but you guys know so much about so many products. I'm looking to tap your knowledge. My next project is a Starlink system for the RV. And the challenge here is that Starlink, I like to take the RV into national forest, and there's no, it's tree cover, so there's no satellite signal. So I might want to put the Starlink out on the truck, somewhere out in clear air where it can see satellites. That means a battery for the Starlink thing. So calculations for my anticipated usage show that a 600 watt-hour battery would be sized about right. So what I need to deal with now is charging that 600 watt-hour battery. It could be, obviously it's going to be either lithium ion or LFP, and I'd like to charge it in 3 hours, which suggests that I need a 200 watt charger. So perhaps if it's a 12 volt battery, 20 amp charger, flexible on voltage because the Starlink uses 48 volts. So I could use one of those e-bike 48 volt batteries and step it down to run the electronics, or I could use a 12 volt and step it up to run the Starlink, different approaches. But I need a way to charge it. And the 3 charging sources that I want to use are AC power, if I'm on shore power, the truck, which would be a 12 volt supply, and I'm okay with running the engine. So in fact, I wouldn't charge it without running the engine because I wouldn't want to run the battery flat. So I think I'm talking about 13.5 to 14 volts there when the engine's running. Or third, maybe solar. And so I can envision bringing these 3 power sources, hopefully at 14 and a bit volts, maybe 15, into 3 ideal diodes, so there's no voltage drop, and whichever one is the highest would pass the current from the active charging source through to the battery. And obviously the battery would have a BNC. But what I have been unable to find and wondering if you guys have any experience with is things that will deliver a couple of 100 watts, possibly constant current from 12 volts, or I think you guys know the kind of thing that I need from that, and 110 volts, obviously delivering 20 amps. That's easier to find, but the 12 volts or a solar charger, I've been struggling to find something that will do 200 watts. Have you guys run into any stuff like that?
I've kind of watched some of the videos. I know Victron may make a product like that where you can have, shore power, solar, or maybe low voltage alternator.
Victron has a beautiful $3,000 multi 3 kilowatt multi input. I think they call it their Quattro is one model of it, where it'll balance, like charging the battery and charging and supplying current to your load and letting in 3 input sources. I mean, it's a wonderful device.
But it's $3,000, huh?
they're the leaders in that field, but I don't need 3,000 watts and I don't have $3,000.
They don't make smaller ones, huh?
I have your answer. I don't know where they find them, but I happen to go to a car, there's a theme going here, right? I happen to go to a car show, and the cars always have their hoods up at the car show, right? Well, this is a Tesla had their hood up, right? Well, Tesla has to charge the battery with something, right? So that's what you need right there.
What is that?
It's a rat on a treadmill.
Oh, there you go. Hooked up to a generator, of course.
I figure if it can power a Tesla, it should be good for your Starlink. So there you go.
So Paul, how many watts? What did you say for a Starlink? You said 600.
Well, no, the Starlink itself only uses about 30 watts in operation.
Right. Yeah.
But I would like to run it 3 days, 5 hours a day before I have to recharge it. So that's about 30 hours without a recharge. So that's about so then 30 watts turns into 600 watts if I run it for 20 hours. So
if you take 600
watt
hours and then divide it by 14, which is your voltage, that turns out to be 42 amps. So you have to have capacity of 42 amp hours.
Hold on. No, you're mixing up units. 600
no,
watt hours.
You got watts. You said watts.
No. 600 watt hours in the battery.
Well, but if you turn that into amp hours, it's about 43 amp hours.
Yeah, at 12 volts. Yes, that's correct.
So if you had a 20 amp charger, you would charge it in 2 hours.
Yes.
So if you had a charger that was
15 amps, it'd be 3 hours. Yeah.
So if you had 7 amps, what I'm trying to get at is how fast do you have to charge this guy up?
It's a fair question, Doug. And
because if you're only using it 5 hours a day,
right,
that means you got 19 hours to mess with. You probably don't need that big a charger.
Yeah, you're right. And if I'm on AC power, that's a really good point, Doug, because if I'm on shore power, then it can take all day and I can just charge it up at a trickle. What really drove my desire to charge it in 3 hours is I designed the RV. So, I designed a lithium and the LFP battery for the RV, and I designed it to where it'll charge in 3 hours. And so what I find myself doing is I get up in the morning, pull the generator out and hook it up to the RV, and then it sits there roaring away for 3 hours. And at the end of the day, at the end of the 3 hours, I've got another 2.5 days worth of RV charging. So I'm kind of thinking I'd like to get, if I have to run a generator or I have to run, the truck, then if I could do it for a limited period of 3 hours while I'm charging the RV, that'd be good. But your point is right on that actually the 20 amps doesn't apply to solar or, I hadn't really thought this through. Doesn't apply to solar or to shore power because those can trickle charge all day. So it's really maybe it's just the truck power that I'd like to.
How many? Well, I'm not sure, but what is an alternator in your truck put out?
So I believe alternators on big trucks are usually around 160 amp.
So that's 20 minutes.
Well, but you can't.
No, what I'm trying to say
probably
is
running other things on the truck, though, right?
Right. Yeah. But I'm just, you know what I meant.
Yeah. And really, it comes down to how much do I want to draw through. So I was thinking, the truck's got these switches up above like ancillary device switches that, you know, are going to have fuses in them that are around the sort of 20 or 30 amp, because that's what, you know, most automotive accessories kind of run, except for high power stuff like headlights. I could maybe put another relay in and to the truck and you know, draw 50 amps out of it. You don't want to go too high or burn the thing up.
So what is your RV? Did you get like a Dodge ProMaster van and convert it, or did you buy one converted, or?
No, it's a fifth wheel. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I actually left the original lead acid 12 volt battery in with a battery switch, so I can rotate between switch between the LFP, or if that fails, switch back to lead acid. But it's a 12 volt system using self-contained batteries. So then, you know, just unhitch the truck and go off driving somewhere.
Mm.
So don't you just use this connector that goes into the car?
Yeah, cigarette lighter. Could you
get the power?
Could use that. Cigarette lighters are usually fused at about 15 or 20 amps, as I understand. So
right, so that's good for 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe I'm down to just needing a 12 volt to. I mean, your point. Thanks for that question, Doug, because I think you've illuminated that I just need 12 volts automotive to constant current to charge the lithium batteries at about 20 amps, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know where you're going, but let's say I know usually at least an hour away from home, you know, so you go at least an hour away from home, I assume. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say is, you know, when I go to a state park or something, you know, at least an hour and probably longer, you could just plug it in like Mike said, and, you know, 15 amps or whatever, you know, you just let it charge.
Yeah.
You probably have to have a limiter.
Yeah. And that works for charging while I'm driving, and that's definitely one scenario. Yeah. And also, I tend to go on trips, you know, go hike somewhere when I've camped somewhere, so I could take it with me in the truck and drive an hour and charge it, drive an hour back and charge it some more. So that can work as well. But I tend to camp in these places for maybe a week, and often off grid for a week, and by then I have to go and empty the tanks and refill with water and stuff like that.
You don't want to move your truck otherwise the camper's on the truck, right? Or is the camper separate? Is the camper separate?
Yeah,
it's a fifth wheel.
Yeah, and it's kind of a big deal to set it all up and tear it down, so I don't want to move that. But I could move the truck or leave the truck running in place.
Yeah.
But I kind of still need. Well, anyway, if anyone runs across what looks like a good 12 volt to lithium charger that will do, you know, a couple 100 watts, I'd be interested.
Okay.
Can I share my screen?
Please.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you know, there are those mobile charging stations for EV cars. But might be a little overkill.
Bump a Tesla out of the way.
There's a lot of user ones from that.
Charging in a hurry.
You could park across 5 or 6 charging stations with the fifth wheel and, you know, block them all.
It would do that.
Okay, so like this one here just random thing on eBay. It's a 12-volt lithium universal charger that has the 20 amp or so.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that would do the job.
Yeah.
Does it say, Mike, what's the duty cycle on it? That'd be my one scare here. But if that can run 20 amps continuously, that sounds like the answer.
Yeah.
And it does that without a hamster?
So wait a minute. What is this powering? What is the power source to this?
Looks like a battery.
A 12-volt battery or something.
Right, but I would wire that into the 12-volt and accessory supply on the truck.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop sharing.
That looks like the. Yeah.
Put the link in, Mike, so that he can look at it later.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. You know, I think I was hung up being confused, thinking I needed 3 sources that could all charge within 3 hours, but needing only one and one beefy one like this would solve my problem. Thank you.
Yeah, for some reason I thought you had a Class B that you were doing.
No, it's a 5th wheel.
Yeah. Anyway, so I've had this beast for a while. It's a P20 step van.
Oh.
And that's the back of it.
Nice.
That's the inside of it. The inside was finished off, so it's basically sheet metal. It's the white room, you know. That's the back. Whoops, that's the back of it. It's got the barn doors, which are those to me are much more desirable than the overhead doors, because the overhead doors take up so much room, you know, because it has to roll up inside the box, and they never seal that well. Whereas the barn doors I always thought were much better. So that's
nice.
Kind of the front of it. It's ugly.
But it takes you places, right?
Yeah, it's it actually has a diesel in it, a V8 diesel, and it gets pretty good gas mileage, about 20 per gallon for, you know, a vehicle that big and that heavy. So
that's way better than I get towing the 5th wheel.
Yeah, it's still, you know, it's still a box that's moving down the road. You know, you have this big front. You know.
So
not aerodynamic at all.
Do you camp in it, Ray?
I haven't yet. I'm still. What's that?
Oh, nothing. It's like my project. You just rebuild it. It's.
Oh. Well, I did repaint the whole interior of it, and you know, there were. It used to be the Mino Fire Department's equipment van, and it has an air conditioner on the roof, and basically it was a place to store all the firefighting equipment, the helmets and the coats and the pants and, you know, all that kind of stuff, and a place to cool down, because it used to have a generator on the front bumper, but anyway, the air conditioner still works, so that was a real plus. I only paid $1,750 for it, so it's not like I've got a lot invested in it. And that's because I just can't justify the cost of like a Class B camper, you know, that's now they're about $100,000, and it's kind of like, okay, you know, for the number of times I would use it, and for, you know, those things depreciate very fast. So, you know, it's like, okay, should I just drive somewhere and stay in a hotel, or drive that thing somewhere and stay in it, you know? So
yeah.
So, and it kind of like you said, you can do boondocking, you know, you can go in areas where there isn't any, you know, power, or
Yeah.
like that. Or if you do go places, you can, always plug into shore power, which is great. So.
Are you guys seeing this?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the rig in Death Valley, and like you really want shore power in Death Valley so you can run the AC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like they had it there though, huh?
Yeah, they did. Well, we went in summer, which is a very unpopular time to go, and so there was hardly anyone else there. So
plenty of campsites.
Trouble getting a site with shore power.
Yep.
Yeah, Benny and I drove through Death Valley in the middle of summer. It was 130 degrees, and fortunately, our air conditioner in our car held up.
And your radio.
Milk.
Well, fantastic. Thank you, Illuminati.
I don't know if there's a gold star for that, but yeah, that's good. That's fun.
Give yourselves all a pat on the back.
Cool. All right. So where does that leave us? Anyone else for open mic? Get as divergent as we feel like. I mean,
I can make a couple of comments.
What's
Just an
that?
update on my robot. You see behind me a sheet of plywood.
Awesome.
That'll be the top and the bottom of the robot.
How fast does it go? Plywood.
No, yet.
Oh.
As fast as he can throw it across the floor.
Basswood, which I think is the same as balsa wood. This will be for the sides. And I got all kinds of toys in. Got two of these rods. That's going to be what raises and lowers the wheels, because the wheels are going to be tucked up when it's in backpack mode, and then they have to untuck to actually roll.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you can see this very well. That's like a big wheel and a little wheel, and there's two of them. And that will be what opens and closes the wheels. And I've got ball bearings that make things roll. This is the size of the wheel. And I got my motors in today. Pretty excited about that. Got encoders on it. It's got this thing here, so the wheel will go on it like that, and it goes up toward the leg there. So that's all good. I'm feeling pretty happy about that. There's only one problem.
What's that?
That's this pile of papers here. My other thing is I have a contract that I work on with somebody, and they just dumped that pile of papers on me, so I have to work on that instead of the robot, even though I got all these pieces now.
Yeah, I was going to say it came with instructions, and those are the instructions in the wrong language. But
yeah, that would be nicer. But unfortunately, I'm a programmer, and they want me to put those on the web so that they can fill them out on the web instead of handwriting them. That's about 100 pages, and most of it's just, oh yeah, I signed this, but still a lot of copying and pasting and typing. So that's why you've been seeing me over here going like this while everybody's talking. So that's the end of my update. I just letting you know I'm making progress. I got bits and pieces, but it'll be a while before I try to put them together.
Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, it's quite a kit, but that's a big sheet of plywood. How big is this thing? Are you going to ride this robot?
You know, that's the size of a sheet I could get. The robot is going to be, well, this here is the legs will be on either end. So this is a 13-inch rod, and I'm thinking the robot body will be 11 inches with an inch sticking out. I may have to adjust that based on where the legs hit each other. So let's say 10 to 11 inches wide.
Right.
And then what fits good on my back, which is probably going to be 15 inches or so, because it has to have room below the robot, but still on my back, to have a cylinder about like that that's going to be running the motor. That it has a strap that goes up to the top of the box, and it hooks onto the robot, so it can lower the robot and pick him back up and put him up there. So that's a motorized lifter and dropper, and you know, pretty basic stuff, I would imagine. I haven't actually tried it, but that's got to be basic. And then the box I mentioned was probably 11 by 15, but it's got to have a head at the top, so that's another 4 inches or so for the head, because truth to tell, the robot's a dog, right? She's a dog. And so it's going to lower itself and have a camera in its nose and a sonar sensor for eyes, and probably going to have a couple of line of flight sensors in the body, which may or may not be overkill. But, you know, you're outside, can't trust sonar, can't trust sign of light. Maybe you can get both to work out something good, because you're going to be walking in a crowd. It's going to have a flag to help it not get stepped on. So making progress. I've got all my ideas really working out, but I need to, at some point, start putting it together. And I'm feeling pretty good about it. I've worked out a lot of the ideas, I think. We'll see. It's ambitious for my first actual built from scratch robot.
Looks pretty cool by the sound of it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
And Pat will have a companion Woody robot.
That's right. We're not calling Woody, we're calling Robo-Dog.
Not Groot.
Hey, plywood is underrated. You know, I think it's a good material. It's strong. It's cost effective. You know,
and this one here is the kind with, you know, the really nice finish on the outside, so it'll look pretty good. Go ahead, Jim.
There actually shouldn't be any shaming for using plywood. You know, it's fine. It's okay.
The part I'm worried about is the steampunk stuff. I'm still not so sure I'm really. Yeah, he mentioned Doctor Who's robot dog K9, and that's kind of what gave me the idea is that, and I think that we talked about this last week when Jim wasn't here. Somebody had shown the club the K9 that he had built, and I had seen that guy's instructions before we talked about it, and it was the same guy. And at one point, I was actually planning on making a K9 and being Doctor Who. But then I decided it didn't have a lot of punch for people that didn't really understand it. And being a more traditionally steampunk guy with like something on my arm and having this backpack that I can raise and lower, and it just becomes a dog. I think it's going to be pretty cool. It's going to have, I saw a example of making what looks like a lead battery or a water battery out of a water bottle. And you put an air pump in there to bubble it. And you put some coloring in there. It looked pretty darn cool. So I want to try that too. I bought a battery operated air pump, and I got some water bottles. They're like this tall and they're straight up and down, so they can look kind of like a battery. So it's going to pretend that those are what's powering it, when really it's my Ryobi standard 18-volt Ryobis are going to be inside the back of the dog.
Have you figured out how much this thing is going to weigh? Is this like a 50-pound
I have
load?
worried about that because, as usual, I haven't done all the math yet. I'm just, it's probably going to be okay. But walking around all day, I may decide to let the robot off of me more than I would if he's too heavy. We'll see. For instance, these motors, you know, they're big. They're probably 1 pound to 2 pounds a piece. They're hefty motors. But that's one of the heaviest things there other than the plywood. So, and it's like plywood, balsa wood on the outside to make it lighter. These pieces, none of them are tremendously heavy.
How about the batteries? What about the batteries?
You know, that's a Ryobi battery, so that's another 2 pounds each. And I'm probably going to have 4 of them on there, maybe only 3. There's 2 on the robot and then 1 or 2 on the lifting belt. I have to decide. You know, it's all about that. Y'all keep talking about amp hours and all that stuff, and I don't know how that works. I just, you know, put the batteries on there and see how long they last, and did it make it all day or what? I don't know how to do the math, but we'll see. Trial and error is my style.
It's effective.
I'll be happy if the thing just rolls straight, because this is the first time I've had motors with encoders on it. And I'm going to have to learn how to use those. That'll be one of the biggest learning curves. I think Jim raised his hand again. Jim, you need to just speak up. I guess he don't have the audio.
He should.
Great steam, yeah. Yeah, I've never done steampunk before, and last year we did Dickens because we're going to the Dickens thing in Galveston, and there were a lot of steampunk around, and apparently steampunk is okay. And one of the people that I'm traveling with, he said, "Oh, let's be steampunk pirates." Well, I don't want to be a pirate. I'm going to be a steampunk inventor. And we'll see.
Very cool.
Yeah, we'll see. it's exciting.
Yeah.
We're all four going to dress up, 2 couples, and maybe a 5th wheel, another lady that comes with us. There was 5 of us last time. Probably be 5 this time.
Very
cool.
Well,
hopefully pictures that are shareable.
Yeah. Well, you'll at least get to see the robot.
At least that.
Probably pictures. We're going April 1st to Galveston because they're having an actual steampunk convention, and we want to go down and get ideas and possibly buy some stuff like jackets and gear things and stuff. Who knows? It's a scouting mission for the actual thing that's going to happen in December. So I have a time frame. I got to get this thing done.
Very cool.
That's okay, Jim. We accept just text too. It's just we have to be watching, and sometimes I'm not watching. Somebody will perk up and say something if I miss it.
So steampunk is really fun, and one of the most memorable things I saw in that vein was at a maker fair a number of years ago when they were doing maker fairs out in San Francisco, and someone had this motor scooter, and it was style of steampunk with like wooden sides around it, and it had like steam coming out of this exhaust in the back, and it was like a steam-powered motorcycle. And I went up to the guy and said, "Hey, how does that work?" And he said, he opened up the lid, and he said, "Well, it's really got an electric motor in its front, and it's got a steam generator."
Right. Those people get very creative. When I get these ideas, I binge watch YouTube and get all kinds of ideas. And
it's fun.
Yeah. Maybe I'll recruit all you guys. You'll all come down in December.
I actually subscribe to the Steampunk Explorer, but I haven't had a chance to go down that rabbit hole at all. So
it's a rabbit hole for sure.
I can see that.
In YouTube, there used to be a guy that he actually made a steam-driven bicycle. He had a boiler and completely self-contained.
Yeah, they've got people build wings and all kinds of stuff. There is a lot of things that people build. It's not all powered by steam. Some of it's just pretending to be powered by steam. Or I was there last year, and somebody popped open these wings that were like 6 feet across. It's like, holy moly. My original plan, which was shot down, I'd probably be embarrassed to mention it, but that inspired me to think about balloon power. What would be a realistic thing? Wings didn't seem very realistic, but what if your backpack would pop open as a hot air balloon or a hydrogen balloon?
I thought be a pretty big one.
That might be very spectacular. The problem is if it's windy, or if I don't calculate my rate right, I could be in trouble.
It's a movie up, right?
I mean,
may end up in the Gulf of Mexico.
I was going to try to calculate it so that it wouldn't have the lift to lift me, but it would look like it would, sort of like the wings look like you could fly with them, because they have a judging for best costume of various types, and I'm the kind of person, I'm competitive. If I'm going to be in it, I want to win it, right? I'm thinking it's going to be a real wow factor when I drop that robot and he starts walking around the stage.
Well, you could always recycle your costumes at Burning Man.
Yeah.
They're kind of a steampunk theme,
Yeah, I thought I was going to be able to wear my last year's costume again because it was, it got pretty pricey by the time I got done with it. I thought, well, it's a couple of years worth of costume, but now they want to do something different. Maybe we'll get back to it, maybe not. Last year's costume was so good, everybody thought we were part of the play. I mean, we were pretty authentic looking. My wife, people were taking our picture thinking we were part of the show.
That's when you have the tip collector somewhere. So.
Yeah. Throw a pop hat out and say, go ahead.
Old school GoFundMe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. No, that was all I had. Just I've got bits and I'm going to start working. I'm really champed up, but I've got this project I have to work on to make money too.
Hate those.
Oh,
I know.
Well,
good. Keep us posted. This is definitely one we want to follow, I think.
Right. I'm going to try to do a little of each time instead of focus all on one, because I'm really wanting to get some going here.
Yeah. I get a feeling.
I said I was waiting on the motors, and now the motors are here.
Are you waiting on the time?
Yeah.
Yep.
Alrighty.
Anyone next in line?
I don't know if there's an interest in this or if someone else has something, but if no one else has something, I ran across an interesting couple of articles that I thought might be of interest to this group by one of the guys from who got let go out of from when Google shut down their one of their robotics groups, and so this guy worked for Everyday Robots, which was a Alphabet project for 8 years, and they were Google shut them down, but he's written some blogs on lessons learned, and it's very readable, very plain English, and so one of the interesting ones, this particular article here, was talking about machine learning and why use it in robots. And he says, he's not talking about machine learning perception like Doug has been working with, because he says it works well, just use it. It would be silly to try and do segmentation and classification using classical means, but he's looking more at the behavioral aspects, like how to clean empty bottles off of countertops. And he makes an interesting point that you can write logic to like detect where the bottles are, and then you test it and you find that in some cases bottles are too close together, so you've got to add some logic to do a top grasp, and you find all these other edge cases and your logic grows, and then he goes into a sort of a discussion of machine learning in this behavioral domain, and why it's been so unsuccessful, in contrast to perception, which has been very successful using machine learning. And he observes that there are two different philosophies: people who think that you should use general intelligence for solving problems, and so you create logic, and then you get a big enough computer and train it on more and more cases, and it gets better and better until you win, until you succeed. And the trouble is, there's no way to know how long that will take. And then the second approach is the pragmatists, who write some amount of logic, and then they want to, and this is what he suggests, find those things that logic isn't solving, like the two bottles close together. Should you grasp them from the top instead of from the side? And start growing an ML layer or an ML model for certain subtasks. So anyway, I'll post the link here in the chat. It was really, really interesting, easy to do, and a good, thoughtful discussion about approaches to machine learning in robots. And the other one was about a more specific issue of machine learning when the environment changes. So maybe you have 3 desks, but then you take it into different office, and the desks are all different and doesn't generalize. And so anyway, or Chipotle, you take it to Chipotle. and their tables aren't like your desks. So and then you take it somewhere else, which is a new domain, and that's outside of the domain that it works on. And he points out that there's no way of telling whether a new domain will fall within the realm of what you've trained it on, or will be outside of the realm. And so anyway, both of these are really, really good, interesting articles that just, a fun, light read.
Sounds good. I tried to summarize what you were saying there, Paul, but the links would be good.
Yeah, so anyway, I know Doug's done quite a bit with ML, and I haven't done much with it, but that's they were enlightening articles.
Sounds good. All right. Anything else? Coming up on the end of a while. Good discussions tonight, though. Cool. Well, if there's only silence, then I would propose we call it a night and rejoin next Tuesday. Gentlemen, have a good time. And
maybe see you at Carlsbad's on Saturday.
Yeah, and whoever wants to come, just respond to me somehow. I'll get you the address, and see you Saturday.
All right.
Or Tuesday. Bye.
See you guys.